as your as a norm, this is the SYT Tech Talks, whereby we talk on different tech stacks of in the tech space part of it. So today you are pleased to have a tech recruiter who is going to talk about resume interview, revamping the LinkedIn account for job search part of it. So our speaker today is Joseph, who is a tech recruiter at Microsoft. Before I spoil out his profile, maybe I could welcome him to introduce himself. Then you can start over the session. Joseph, karibu.
Awesome. Thanks, Juma. Can you hear me well?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Joseph, and I'm a recruiter here at Microsoft. And I've been in the recruiting field for 10 years this August, primarily starting out with agency recruiting, and then over time transitioned into tech recruiting from Andela from 2018. And then now I've been with Microsoft for the last 2 years, 3 years this September or this December, handling Europe, Middle East, and Africa, handling a couple of different roles across the different areas, different countries. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. So for the today's sessions, you can on your end you can take over the session, being the speaker.
Oh, I thought it's a question and answer thing, but it's all right. So
Yeah.
just give me a second. So let me see what was on the poster.
And for the audience, if you have got any question, you can put it on the chat or just raise your hand. We shall tackle on that.
I think what would be the best way is to let it not be structured. I would think let's do more question and answers, because I believe from the questions I'll be able to build on like what people ask.
Yeah, that could also work.
Yeah. So anyone who has a question.
Hello. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. I do have a question. So currently there is a lot of a major shift into tech, and we are seeing lots of people who are coming from non-technical backgrounds. So I just wanted to understand from a recruiter's point of view what they look at in terms of those who are in a career transition, a career pivot, and a career change.
Okay. So I think with the clamor and the glitz of how people have been talking about the tech industry, we've seen very many people want to transition. They want a piece of the cake. But it's very hard to transition, especially at the later stages of your career. So it's easier to transition when you're still getting your footing, like 1, 2, 3 years of experience. And then now you've seen, maybe I want to venture up to a career into tech. But the most important thing when you're looking to transfer, to move from a different industry to the tech industry, is the transferable skills. Because you might be doing something, maybe a finance person, but you have a bit of knowledge of tech. It's always, when you're writing the CV, when you're maybe interviewing somewhere, it's always good to look at the transferable skills that you have and how they would tie now down to the role that you would be looking out for. So it's very critical that you look and target roles that you feel you can exhibit transferable skills. That is why I say it's very hard to transition at the later stages of the career. You've been 10 years in a different field, transitioning into tech. not many hiring managers will have faith that you can be able to actually transition from what you've been doing to now a different role, because tech is very demanding. Also, the roles, they're very, very specific. Like literally, you can't transition from finance to tech just like that, because the roles are very specific. There's that technical competency that you're expected to have. But if you're looking to transition at the early stages of your career, it's good to look at the area you want to move into, look at what you've been doing, and then see what skills you can gain, maybe through short courses, online courses. And then now, when you get a chance to do the interview, it is now there that you are able to like exhibit that you have what you would call the transferable skills that would make you a success in the role that you're applying for.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, there is Kelvin. So Jacqueline, you've asked, what does experience look like for an internship setting? What to share when seeking for one in a resume? So if you're looking for internship and maybe you've already seen a company that has posted out a role, if you have straight from school 1 to 2 years of experience, a one-page CV is very enough. And then what we are looking out for, most organizations now, when I speak of Microsoft, what we look out for when someone is applying for an internship, because we have so many different applicants. What would put you apart from the rest of the applicants is like, have you been doing anything in school apart from just the courses that you've been taking, like the lessons that you've been taking? Like, have you been volunteering somewhere? Have you taken part, if you're a software engineer, have you taken part in a hackathon? Have you been in have you attended a conference where you were able to talk about what you're doing? So for internship positions, those are some of the things that would really help you. Are you working on a personal project? Do you have a side gig? Are you enrolled to Upwork and you've been doing a personal project that someone can be able to actually see that you're already proving that you have some experience into whatever you want to get the internship on? So when looking for internships, and that is why I always tell people, don't start looking for internships when you're in third year, fourth year. Start building your resume from day one when you join school. Like when you're in campus, first year, you get a volunteering experience somewhere, go for it, do it. Put it on your CV. There's a hackathon somewhere, go for it, do it. There's a conference somewhere, attend it. If it's virtual, attend it. If there's some short courses, if you're targeting an organization like Microsoft, or cloud platform is Azure. For anyone in school, if you have a school email address, they get those trainings for free, the fundamental trainings. Have you enrolled into one? That is what will put your CV apart from the rest, where you don't have a CV that is only showing like you've only been in school and you've not been doing something else on the side. And then Kelvin, would you recommend a one-page resume or a two-page CV for someone applying for junior engineer role? One-page CV is enough. You don't need more than one-page CV. If you're at the entry level of your career, and even if you have 1 or 2 years of experience, I don't know whether Google Meet allows me to share my screen. So let me, and I'm biased because I've been on Teams every now and then. Let me see, this is the window. When you can see my screen, please let me know.
Yeah, perfect. That is okay.
Yes, you can.
Okay, great. So resume basics for someone with entry-level internships, straight from school, 1-2 years of experience. A one-page CV is enough. Let it be very clean, nicely formatted, no typos. Don't say you have attention to detail and maybe you've made some typos on the CV. What does that exhibit? It exhibits that you are actually lying on your CV when you say you have attention to detail, when your CV is clearly full of typos, and then let it be simple, straightforward, and engaging, and then include contact information, email, and phone. And then if it's internship, you're applying somewhere, when you're applying, especially for an organization like Microsoft, we normally take in people who have at least 1 or 2 semesters left in their schooling times, to ensure, like, if you're successful, we use that as a notice period for you to go back there, maybe finish up your school, and then you can join the organization on entry level. And then clearly state your graduation date, month, and year. And then you're in campus, you're seeking for internships, do away with your primary school, high school. That one is not necessary, because for you to be admitted into a university, definitely you must have gone through all that. So an example of a CV, a straightforward CV, would be something like this. Someone with maybe internship, 1 year of experience, you can clearly see it's very simple, straight to the point. Sample resume, that is where the sample resume is, that is where you put your name and contact details. If you have a GitHub profile, profile, LinkedIn, post the links there. So because some hiring managers would want even to go into your GitHub profile and see what kind of things that have you been doing out there, and then indicate your education, and then the university and everything, whatever course you're taking, the relevant coursework that you feel would be relevant to the role that you're applying for. And then professional experience. If you're seeking for internships or you're applying for a job and you've interned somewhere, indicate that on the CV. And then on the CV, don't look at the job description of that internship that you did, and then you copy paste like that job description onto your CV. Because literally most of the times, just job descriptions are generic. A hiring manager will just use a job description, and then when you go in, you realize 1 month down the line, like, I'm actually not doing what was indicated in the job description. So what would happen is, if you copy paste what was on the job description and put it on the CV, you're actually doing yourself a disservice, because you're actually not doing what was indicated there. So look at what you're actively doing, and then periodically update the CV. Don't wait up until you're done with your internship. That's when you want to now update your CV. If you do something within your first month, a significant project, feel this is good for my CV, indicate it then. Don't wait up until now, because I'm just doing this internship, and then go back to school, and then 1 year from now is when I'll be applying for a job. You will forget the things that you have indicated. So kindly and please always be periodically updating your CV as you go by. And then, as you've seen on this example here, like, use action verbs, like literally showing I was actually doing something. Like, if it was a project maybe that you did that turned around the response time from maybe 80% to 50%, and then maybe the team that you're interviewing for, they're struggling with the same, indicate that on the CV. Whatever project you did, if you got a chance to lead a team within the 3-4 weeks or 2 months that you were there, indicate that on the CV. And then personal projects, like if you've done something on the side, something you feel is very interesting and can add more value to your CV, also indicate that, because this is what will set your CV apart. We are in an era where an internship position is posted, we have 500 people applying. So you can imagine the the chance for you to be able to even not just be successful, to even get a chance to interview. So you need to have the CV that really sells you to the hiring manager without you being there, so that at least it can give you the chance. And then any volunteering, leadership, and activities that you might have done, indicate that. If you look at that CV, if we just added the name of an individual, their school, professional experience, using built great code using these and these, C++ and Java, increased accuracy of automation by 25% from 10%, led a team of 4 interns. Like, literally, this is a CV that can get you an interview somewhere. So, and then on the skills that you have, if an organization has posted that they're looking for a front-end developer, Java, React, Angular, and you feel you have that, indicate that on the CV. That is what will set you apart from anyone applying. Are we good to go? Are we to good from there? Thank you. And then Mutua Frederick, market conditions in terms of compensation range for a software engineer who successfully completed 1 year in the industry. Market dynamics are different. Different organizations will pay differently for different roles. So I would say for you, if you have 1 year of experience, it's always good to know you believe you know your worth, you know what you can do, you know the value you're bringing into the organization. The most important thing, even in an interview setup, don't discuss the compensation during the interviews. Prove yourself during the interviews. And now, when you get into the final, like now they've interviewed 10 people and they feel you're the right person. Now you have an upper hand in that you can negotiate. Always good not to go very high, and it's always good not to go very low. The trick to this is put the ball in their court. Like, I know you guys have a budget for the role. You've interviewed me. You feel I'm the right person for the role. I would want to hear, like, how is the compensation package from your end? Because different organization, different compensation packages. So if you're just looking maybe at just the salary, you might miss out on a role when maybe that organization has different other aspects of compensation that are not just salary based. And then in terms of experience, do you put short term, 1, 2 months, or long term? Anything, as long as Christabel, as long as you feel what you're doing will add value to your CV. Like, literally don't miss it out. You might have done a gig for 3 months, and then you, like, in that 3 months, the project that you did, what you were working on, the solution, the product that you are working on, like, literally gives you joy every time you see it. So if you don't indicate it on your CV, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, because when you're talking about a project that you were involved in that was successful, like, even a hiring manager and an interviewer can clearly see, like, you are heavily involved in that particular project. So there's not like a duration of time when you are only allowed to indicate something on the CV. As long as you feel it adds value to your CV, go forward and do it. And then Patrick, as a recruiter hiring junior mid-level Swiss, project for certifications on your resume. Also, when do you think big tech will resume hiring? Project for certifications, both. Both. At the entry level, when you don't have experience, those certifications will add value to your CV. At the junior mid level, senior level, being able to showcase the projects that you have done while also showcasing you have some certifications on your resume, they go a long way, especially for an organization like Microsoft, where we have what we value a growth mindset. By having many certifications on your profile, what does that indicate? It indicates that you're an individual who is constantly learning, constantly seeking to improve themselves. So if you have certifications that show that you've been constantly learning, apart from just like the normal work that you've been doing, you have certifications that can prove you've been doing like learning on the side, it gives you an advantage because the interviewer, the hiring manager will see that this is an individual that is always striving to learn, striving to improve themselves, striving to grow. And then, can you share some tips for optimizing my resume and LinkedIn profile? I think I've shared for the resume. It's indicating significant projects. Don't ever use the job description for the role that you interviewed for. Look at what you did, and that is why I said periodically update your CV. Don't wait for when you're applying for a role, because you will definitely forget some things you did last year and you're applying now. Periodically update that CV to ensure you're able to capture. If you feel you've done something very significant in your current line of work, it won't take much of your time. Just go to the CV because it's still fresh in your mind. You still have words to be able to put it across. Don't wait up until when you're now applying for jobs is when you're creating your CV. And then optimizing your resume also means don't use a blanket CV to apply for different jobs. Different organizations, use different ways of screening in candidates. We have applicant tracking systems that automatically scan through the CV. If you don't meet 70% of the criteria, you are automatically disqualified. So you'll be wondering, like, I applied for this role at 7, by 7:05, they had already rejected me. So periodic and I curate your CV the same way we curate our Twitter timelines. Like, you want to follow a specific kind of people, you want a specific kind of content. Is the same way when you're applying for a job. Curate your CV to at least match up to the job description that you're looking for. Not word for word, but at least if a job description has said they want someone who's experienced in back end, front end, and you don't have that on the CV, like literally it won't help you in getting across the door for a chance to interview. And then when it comes to LinkedIn, connect with people who you feel are in the field that you're in. If you have something that you're doing on the side, if you've attended a conference where you talked about different things, talk about it. I'll use an example of two different people I know. There is I don't know whether most of you guys have seen. There is a guy called Kennedy. He's currently working at UN, data science guru, very vocal, very outspoken on what he's doing. There's also Owen, who's like an Angular front-end developer. There's also another guy called Humphrey, who's a student learn ambassador for Microsoft. They are constantly talking about the things they're doing on LinkedIn, constantly talking about projects that they have done, things that they have learned. That is the only way you will gain traction on LinkedIn, and also you will have prospective recruiters and prospective hiring managers find your CV, find your profile, because you're constantly talking about a specific thing. And then on LinkedIn at the top, where you have your photo, below there's a space where you can indicate talks about blah blah blah, this and this and this. The specific field that you're in, indicate that, because when recruiters we are doing LinkedIn searches, we have the sourcing team here at Microsoft. The keywords that we use, if you have that on your profile, there's 100% chance that your profile will appear on the recruiter's radar. So that is some of the ways that you can use to maximize, to optimize your resume and LinkedIn. Can a 1-year employment gap affect one's job search? That's from RISPA. Yes, it can, and also it cannot. It can if you're not able to clearly explain why there's a gap. If you took a sabbatical, maybe you got a kid and you decided, I'm not going back after maternity leave, it makes sense. Organizations that value you as an individual and not just whatever you're bringing onto the table, they'll understand that. We are currently at a time when there are so many layoffs being done, you might have been laid off in an organization, but during that 1 year when you aren't employed, can you show that you are actually doing something? Were you taking some online courses? Were you learning something? Were you trying to do something on the side? Even if you might have started a business, talk about it, because if you're in an organization that is looking for salespeople, they're looking for that entrepreneurial mind. So the gap can affect you positively or negatively depending on how you take it and how you can explain it. Could you share some successful examples of resumes or LinkedIn profiles? I've shared an example of a resume, and I've also shared some names of people who I know they're constantly talking about their LinkedIn, on some of the things that they're doing. How long should a cover letter be? I think 3 paragraphs would be enough. And in the 3 paragraphs, the cover letter should at least show, like, you're tying your experience to the job that they have. Like, literally, you're showing them, like, this is the person that you deserve because I have this experience in this and this and this. And I believe in your organization, with the person or individual that you're looking out for, I believe I can do this and this and this. So look at the job, look at your experience, look at what you've done, look at your projects, significant achievements, and tie them down as you write the, what do you call it, the cover letter. And then, as someone who values diversity and inclusivity, I'm curious to know how Microsoft promotes diversity within its engineering teams and what initiatives the company has in place to ensure an inclusive work environment. Wow, interesting question. So we are a very diverse and inclusive organization, and in fact, that is preached every now and then. And diversity can be looked at different ways. Can be looked at from gender, can be looked at from nationality, can be looked at from people living with disability. So as an organization, we have that. In countries like Egypt, in Microsoft, there's a criteria like in every engineering team, 5% of the people in that team have to be people living with disability. So that is one of the ways that Microsoft looks into. And then we have various forums, we have various initiatives, we even have, so like, for lack of a better word, the software engineering space is a very male-dominated space. Out of 500 applications, you'll find like 70, 80% are male. So we have to be very diverse in how we look at those profiles, at how we screen in candidates. We are not lowering the bar for anyone, like for a female candidate, but we even have what we call diverse-driven hiring initiatives, where we even have a hiring manager saying, for these positions, I have like my team is male dominated. I would want at least for these 2-3 positions, let's try as much as possible to have women in that particular interviewing panel, interviewing loop. So we have various avenues. We have different things that we do at Microsoft. One of them being for us to hire a senior engineer at Microsoft, like literally you have to show like there was like a female candidate in that interview loop. Like the 4 interviews, there was a female candidate. Even if they weren't successful, we have to show that. And if we don't have, we have to seek approval to even make a hire to show like at least we are trying to be diverse. And then of all the other opportunity things that we do, conferences, meetups, diversity hiring initiatives, to ensure like we are a diverse and inclusive work environment. And as I've mentioned, diversity is looked at in different ways. Here in Kenya, we are trying to be very diverse. We're hiring people from different nationalities. Currently at ADC, we have people from Rwanda, Burundi, we have someone from Eritrea, we have people from Ethiopia. So like we're very diverse in how we hire people. And then Ruth, as an entry-level developer, software developer intern, we are not encouraged to specialize in one area. That means we are all. It's always good to be all round, but at least you need to be very good in one specific area. You might be a full stack developer, but you are more of a backend developer, such that it will not limit you to opportunities. Because if you say you are 50-50, it would mean if an opportunity for 100% backend developer was to show up, you might miss out on that particular opportunity. So it's good to be all around, but it's very good to have that area where you know and feel like I'm very good in this. And then self-taught programmers, you haven't touched on that. Self-taught programmers, we have so many of them. We have people who like literally they haven't come from a software engineering background and they've thrived in a career in tech. So the most important thing is exhibiting the fundamentals knowledge, like the data structures, the algorithms. When it comes to software design, system design, even if you're self-taught, do you exhibit the knowledge of those fundamentals during the interviews? And then Justina, salary expectation requested by employers considered during salary negotiations. Yeah, yes. So when someone asks you for your salary expectations, it's always good. At least I also want to manage my expectations as a recruiter and also from your end, because you might be expecting something very high and then the position that we have, we might not be able to come close to that. Most of the time why we ask for this is at least to be able to manage the expectations, like to ensure like if we get to the offer stage, we will not have a lot of back and forth, you rejecting the offer, us trying to see what we can do. So these expectations, unless it's an organization that wants to lowball you on an offer, expectations, we normally gather them to at least ensure we are at the same page. I don't want to a situation where you've done the hard part of doing 5 interviews, and then I'm coming to you with a salary that is not even close to what you're looking out for. And then if they happen to have a low expectation, it depends on you. Are you willing? Is it an organization that you're willing to grow in and learn? But also, most of the time, if an organization even had a budget for a slightly lower budget and they feel you're good, there will always be exceptions that can be made. I think I've spoken about optimizing resumes for 8 years. Njogu has responded. The best way to negotiate your salary within your current job? That is very hard. That is one of the hardest things that people you can do, because when you're in, unless the organization has a structure where like a clear set out structure on how to grow into the organization, into the role that you are in, it's very hard to negotiate, because if you're not growing in the organization, it's very hard for you to even renegotiate your salary. So, and then sometimes you renegotiate the salary when the company knows already you have an offer somewhere. So it's always good to be very cautious when your employer who you've been trying to see if they can improve your salary, and then now when you received an offer somewhere, it is when that they want now to give you a counter offer. So it's a good chance to negotiate, but it's also good to know when to leave. And then just give me 1 second, give me a minute or so, and then I'll be back.
Yeah, you can continue sharing your questions on the chat. Or if you have a comment, you can raise it to your hand. The mic is yours. Any comment as we wait for Joseph to come up?
I am back. I don't know whether you still have access to the chat. Oh boy, no. If you had asked a question and I hadn't responded, I clicked on the.
Let me just try to go through them. So there's a question from Pauline. Does graduation date matter to recruiter? If she's currently taking a computer science degree and also taking a software engineering program at the same time. By the time she'll be graduating, she'll have experience under my belt. Is it a red flag to take recruiters?
No, it is not a red flag, because it shows that you are actually doing something when you're still in school. So if you have something on the side that you can continuously be doing, it gives you that experience, and it also prepares you for how the job market will be. So that shouldn't be a red flag. I'm in the process of hiring someone in Egypt. They've just graduated in June, but cumulatively, if you look at their CV, this guy has like 2 years of proper experience. And then, Fred, you have a very interesting question. What are the early signs that shows one has passed or failed an interview, even before the feedback? I wouldn't. It's very good to be very optimistic, but it's also optimism can kill you. So it's always good to wait, but you can feel, especially in a technical interview, you can feel if you did well. Like literally, if it was a coding exercise, if you are able to come up with a solution to the question that had been posed, like even it got to a point the interviewer didn't have any more questions to ask you, you can feel that you're heading in the right direction. If it's in an interview and you realize that you struggled a lot, like literally, even if it was a coding exercise, you aren't able to complete it, despite even maybe the interviewer giving you hints, sometimes you can feel like there's something that you're able to feel. But tech interviews can offer that. But other interviews where, like, it's just what you would say, what's the right word for it? Scenario based questions, talking about your experience. Sometimes it is hard to find out, like, actually how the interview went. But if it is an interview where you are actually doing an exercise, you can clearly see whether you did well or whether you didn't do well. And then, how do you effectively message recruiters when you're seeking for an internship at a company without waiting for a job advert? It's very good to be structured. So I've received tons of messages, and unfortunately, sometimes I cannot respond to all of them. Like yesterday, I was going through my LinkedIn inbox because I've been quite busy. The last couple of months have been hectic for us here. With very limited team handling 30 to 40 different jobs in 9 countries. So for sometimes I might not be able to answer them. But when you're crafting a message to reach out to, don't just say hi and then go. Because to be honest, like, how will I even answer to that? It's always good, like, you structure your message in a way that when I have the time, I'll feel obligated to respond to you. Like, introduce yourself. My name is Wen Hu. I'm currently doing this and this. I'm seeking for an internship. And I'll be able, it won't take too, I normally have Fridays are the days when, like, I have an hour to respond to most of the LinkedIn, Twitter messages. If I see a message that someone took their time to, like, reach out to me, I'll definitely try as much as possible to answer them. I might not even answer them like after a week or two, because sometimes, to be honest, I have 30 hiring managers on my neck. I have 100 candidates I'm taking through a process. So sometimes if you reach out to a recruiter and if you see they haven't responded, it's not because they don't want to. It's just sometimes you don't have that time, like literally. And then how long do you wait until reaching out to a recruiter after a job interview? 2 weeks at least, because sometimes you find interviews overlapping over this week and next week, different candidates interviewing. But from your last interview, at least 2 weeks from there, you should be able, if you haven't heard from the recruiter, please reach out to them. And then typical stages for tech interview process and how candidates can prepare effectively. So at Microsoft, we have different stages. I'll share my screen once again. When you can see my screen, let me know.
Yep, that's up.
Okay, so this is generally how a typical recruiting process would look at Microsoft. You make an application, and this is even for internships. You make an application on the career portal, activate your profile, and upload the CV. And then, as a recruiter, I'm the first point of contact for the CVs. So before we post jobs, I have calls with the hiring managers to discuss on what they're looking out for in an individual. So using the criteria the hiring manager shared, it is what I'll review the CVs on. And I'll ask that if you're looking to apply to Microsoft, especially for internships and entry level, have your profile already at the career portal and put the notifications on. Why? It's global talent acquisition policy inside here that we post jobs for 30 days or 250 applicants, whichever comes first. So you can imagine a scenario where I'll post a job on Friday. By the time I'm coming to the office on Monday, I have 300 applicants. To be honest, I can't wait for more to come in when I haven't reviewed the 300 who have applied. So I'll unpost the job and then first review the profiles that have come in. So sometimes it's good to be early when applying. And then I'll review the profile, share them with the hiring manager. And then if the hiring manager says we are good to go with this candidate, we have what we call the code test. Code test is either it's done via Codility. We send you 2 or 3 questions with a 2-hour time frame for you to do them. And then if you ever receive a Codility test from Microsoft, please ensure you have adequate time before you sit down and start taking the questions. Because if you don't and you start doing something else, after 2 hours, because we expect the questions that we set out for the different levels, entry level, mid level, senior level, we expect someone who would be coming into Microsoft can be able to solve them in the time frame that has been given. So ensure you have 2 hours with very good speed, away from distractions, because if you don't submit within the 2 hours, it automatically submits itself. And if you see a scenario where it automatically submits, it would mean you either score a low percentage or even 0. And we have other candidates who took their time and they did the test well and they've passed the test. And the code is reviewed. And please, 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 if you ever receive a Codility test, do not try and plagiarize it. Do not try and use external sources, because Codility will detect that. And once it detects that and it brings it out on the report, because it brings out a report which shows exactly where that similar, like if it's a line of code, where did you exactly copy that line of code? It's a red flag. And from there on, to be honest, your application will be stopped there. And you might even be blacklisted for future opportunities. So very good that you take your time. Don't seek external help. Don't try and plagiarize, because it will put you in a bad place. And then if you're successful, we go into the final interviews. So we either do a Codility test or a technical screen. A technical screen is where you meet an interviewer selected by the hiring manager. You do a 1-hour coding exercise with them. They can be able to see your code, they can be able to review it, they can give you feedback, see where you're going wrong, see if you can take the feedback and incorporate this feedback into whatever you're doing, and then move on to the next steps. And then the final day, they interview 4 interviews back to back most of the times, or we can spread out across 2 days depending on the candidate's availability. Because you see, at the end of the day, we understand you might be working somewhere. You're not just sitting there to wait to interview with Microsoft. So the 4 interviews might be a lot in one day. So we can spread them out across 2 days. So here we are tested on the technical excellence and what we call the Microsoft culture and values, the competencies. And if you are successful, we move to the offer to discuss the compensation. And if you're not successful, we'll give you the feedback so that at least you can go back, see where you didn't do well, and see how you can learn and grow from the feedback that you've been given. So basically, that is how the process is like. And then to be able to prepare effectively, and I hope I'm answering most of the questions as I answer this. As a software engineer, we have the technical interview focus areas. The 4 things you see here, they're very, very critical. The algorithms, data structures, system and software design for mid and senior level, and then also on your code quality and testing. You have to exhibit technical excellence on this. On algorithms, data structures, system, software design, code quality and testing, because Codility offers you the opportunity to manually test your code to see whether it is running. So it's always good that you are able to exhibit this during the interview. And then we have what we call the non-technical areas, the culture fit areas, problem-solving skills. Are you a problem solver? Are you someone, as you talk about your experience, things that you have done, your projects, significant projects, that you exhibit that problem-solving skills, which can also be exhibited on the technical side. Growth mindset, as I mentioned. Are you constantly seeking to learn? What are you doing to constantly improve yourself? If you faced a challenge, you made a mistake in your line of work, did you learn from it? What did you learn from it? How did you grow from this mistake, this challenge that you faced? And then collaboration. You'll be working in a distributed team. Currently, I work with hiring managers in the US. My manager sits in Israel. I hire in Dublin, Norway, Egypt, Nigeria. There'll be lots of collaboration with different stakeholders in different time zones, in different organizations, whom you might never meet. But how do you exhibit that aspect of collaboration? Customer focus. As an engineer, you're building products, you're building solutions. How do you exhibit that customer focus mindset into whatever you're doing? You might not have had this experience, but a scenario based question can be posed to you for the interviewer to see your thought process across the different areas that I've mentioned here. Do you have a drive for results? Are you an individual who's always pushing people to be better? Project that you have done will exhibit your drive for results. Are you adaptable? Things change, software requirements, developments, life. So the software development life cycle is very dynamic. Things can change in between. Even you're doing something for a customer, requirements are changed in between. How adaptable are you? And then the most important one, communication. How do you put your thoughts across when you're writing the coding question? Do you communicate to the interviewer? Do you verbalize your workings? These are very critical. Communication also, as you talk about things, the significant things and projects that you have done, are you able to clearly elaborate and put your thoughts across in a way someone can be able to understand? And then on interview tips, especially in a technical interview, always good to acclimatize yourself with the interview process and structure, and then practice coding to refresh your knowledge by leveraging on the platform that we have, Codility, to familiarize yourself with the tool. And then read up, read up. Competition is high. You're not the only one interviewing. If you don't prepare, someone else is preparing. I always tell candidates, my background is communication. I've done journalism. There's what we call in production process, pre-production, post, and then pre-production, production, and post-production. If you don't prepare well on the pre-production part, the entire production will fail. You'll find a cameraman came to the field, they hadn't charged the batteries. The cameraman came to the field, they didn't have what we call the white balancing thing that we used when we setting up the cameras. Same thing with an interview. If you have not prepared well, it's a recipe for failure. Like someone else out there is spending their night preparing. If you don't prepare, definitely I can assure you, you will not succeed. And then on the interview setup, not just at Microsoft, if you're a software engineer interviewing somewhere else, you've been given a question, seek clarity. Interviewers are supposed to be doctors, are like doctors are journalists, always inquiring, always seeking to understand what is it do you want to achieve by the solution that I'll come up with. When you understand the problem, it's easier now to break down the problem into a workable solution. And if you can write some a pseudocode to break down the problem and then ensure your interviewer is aware, and then clearly communicate and articulate any assumptions that you might be making to the interviewer during the technical interview by verbalizing your workings as you work through your solution. And then if you've chosen Java, kindly use functions built for that particular language. Don't take Java and then the functions that you're using are Python based, C++ based, .NET based. If you decide to do an interview in Java, use functions built for that particular language. And then consider comments and hints from your interviewer. They see you're doing well, but maybe there's a bit where you're not going in the right direction. They'll give you feedback. Why they're giving you feedback is not what they want to help you, but these interviewer, these are the people you would be working with. They also want to see, are you the kind of individual who I can give feedback and you can take that feedback positively and incorporate that feedback into what you're doing? And then consider comments and hints from your interviewer, as I've mentioned, because they will show you exhibit collaboration. By taking in feedback, listening, you're exhibiting good communication skills. You're also exhibiting adaptability because you are doing this, but now you've been told to do this. How adaptable are you? So the areas that I've mentioned, you don't have to be asked a question directly like, how adaptable are you? Are you a good communicator? Are you a good collaborator? Like, these can be exhibited during the entire interviewing process. And then take note of notable projects, achievements, significant challenges you have overcome to discuss on your non-technical side of the interview. Wow, I need some water. And then I've talked about typical stages. How many times can one be an intern in a different organizations? As many as you can. If you're not finding a permanent job and you're still in school and you're getting different internships, please have as many as you can. As I've mentioned, the candidate I'm currently hiring in Egypt, they've interned at Microsoft, they've interned at Meta, they've done another couple of internships, some side jobs on the side. Like, literally, this is someone coming into the job market already prepared for it. What role do keywords, applicant tracking system play in the initial? So keywords play a part, because if it's an automatic applicant tracking system where it will just skim through your CV and see whether you have the keywords, that is how sometimes you will miss out. So as I mentioned, look at the job description and try at least to have your CV match up to your, like, the job that you're applying for. And then, should you include duration time? Took you to finish school, took 6 years instead of normal years. Yes, include, because we have different reasons why someone can take for 6 years instead of 4, and sometimes they're beyond your control. So if you, as long as you have a credible reason that can show why you took the 6 years instead of the 4, please indicate that on the CV. Yes, in things to do with the age, please don't, because we have, sometimes it's unconscious bias that someone can put away your CV with their thinking you're too young or you're too old. Just put in the relevant details, as I mentioned, on the CV. Common behavioral questions asked in tech interviews. As I've mentioned on that, it's, if you've not had experience, there'll be scenario-based questions that will now show your thinking in terms of, like, I've not had the experience, but my thinking shows that I can be able to actually thrive in this particular role. And then negotiation mistakes, I think we've already made. Quoting too high, quoting too low. Always leave the ball on the court of the people. As long as they've interviewed you and they feel you're the right person for the role, always leave it to them to extend an offer to you, and then now you can have a conversation based from that. And then Mutua, during the review season, can you help figure out a baseline of where the market value skills? So I can't be able to provide, like, the prices, because different organizations, different compensation packages, but it's always good to also always do your research. This is an organization, is it a mid-level, is it an international level, is it a startup? And then now you can, like, once they've put an offer out to you, you can be able to at least now have, and then be reasonable as you're negotiating. Don't, they've put in an offer of 300K, you are looking for 500, but you're not willing to even come down to 450. Sometimes it's always good even to be reasonable as you make this negotiation, because you also don't want to leave a bad taste in the mouth or in the heart of the people you're negotiating with, because these are your future employers. But you feel like someone is lowballing you, it's always right to walk away. Even in relationships, you feel like you're not getting your worth, always good to feel like I can always walk away from this. And then, do you consider skill, or do you just focus only on the CS graduate student skills, transferable skills? But the most important thing on the technical side is the aspect of the fundamental. Like, do you have a grasp of the algorithms, the data structures, and is your code quality? you might not be from a computer science background, but your code is good. You understand the fundamentals. That is what is really important. Usually the pass mark for codility test, assuming it has 3 questions set for 180 minutes, it will depend on what the hiring manager has said and the level of difficulty for that. Some tests will have a 50%, some will have 60, some will have 70%, depending on how people perform on that particular test. We can't see the slides. Oh, I've stopped sharing. Ayub. Yeah, so I'll share the slides with Juma, and then you can be able to share with the team. And then Ayub, someone passionate about Android development. I'm interested in understanding. Yeah, so as I've mentioned, we value a growth mindset. And then, so when you join the organization, like you'll have conversations with your manager. Every 3-4 months, we have what is called a connect. You connect with your manager, where at the beginning of the year, they told you, this is the level that you're in. This is what I want you to do. If there's anything that you need to learn, I'm here. We have so many resources. So this is a discussion that engineers have with their managers, and then they set out a path for you, and they provide the relevant materials, the relevant resources, which will help you learn and grow into the level. So the culture is ingrained in that your manager also has the responsibility to grow you, to ensure that the team is growing. So you will have those conversations with your manager to ensure you're growing professionally as an engineer. And then it's an open company where ideas are welcomed, discussions are highly welcomed. We have the hackathons happening around September where you can innovate as much as you can. We have the garage where people go in and be innovative, create whatever you can do. Like you can go crazy with all the ideas that you have. Specific keywords or techniques that can improve a candidate's visibility to recruiters, I think I had shared that. Specific programming languages, skills, or certifications are currently are in demand. This is now where you have to be very strategic. The organizations that you're looking into, if you're targeting Microsoft, you need to learn about our cloud platform. You do the fundamental courses on Azure. Anything that you feel will give you an edge when you're applying for Microsoft, do it. If you're targeting Google, there are different areas, things that certifications, courses that can help you become a success there. This is now where, as I said, be strategic, look at the companies that you're targeting, look at the stacks they use, the certifications that other engineers in those teams have. Go through LinkedIn, see what the engineers at Microsoft have on their LinkedIn profile, and these will help you to like see the line that you should focus on. At times you're asked how much you need to be paid. How do you respond? Be very forthright. I'm happy to hear what you have, as long as it is competitive to the market and it matches up to my experience and to the role that I'm becoming into, looking at like my experience and what I'll be bringing onto the organizations. I want to hear from you, and then from there on, once I hear from you, we can be able to have a discussion on this. And then Aisha, I'll definitely look through your profile. So unfortunately for the hackathon for September, it is only restricted to internal candidates, on internal employees only.
Yeah, for Gaki, there are so many hackathon around. So you can also check for Africana, is it Africanas? There are so many, they're doing a lot of hackathon in the tech space part of it.
Okay. I think we've done pretty well. Have I answered the questions that's in the way you would have wanted?
Yeah, sure, true. For Helen, maybe I could answer Helen. It is good when you join the career portal on Microsoft, you'll get to know and notification on. You get to know when there are vacancies on the part of it. Then to Joseph, my question could be maybe on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
profile. Maybe someone is specialized in electrical, but he has studied electrical engineering, but
Yeah.
when out in the field, he get into tech space, and the tech space is much wider part of it. You get him doing front end engineering, volunteering into the social media part of it, volunteering into digital marketing part of it, volunteering into project manager part of it, into the community part of it. And how do one incorporate all of these to be in his or her LinkedIn profile?
So let me share my profile here. You can see my screen.
Yep.
So this is the most important part. This is where I was talking about. You might have done something different in your school, but now you're currently like doing something different. So talk about this in your like put whatever you're doing currently into your CV. Like I talk about careers in tech, machine learning, tech recruitment, software engineering. If you're an electrical engineer who's currently doing front end, indicate this on your CV. And then on the about, you can indicate, like you can just give a brief introduction about you. I'm a full stack developer with 5 years of experience, having worked on a myriad of projects cutting across different industries. And these are my go-to, like these are the skills that I have. And then you can indicate that on the CV. And then on the job, you can indicate, like I've indicated Microsoft the mission, but I've also indicated I helped Microsoft achieve its mission. And then this is also the places that I was, what I was doing there at Ajua, at Andela. Like indicate that on your like your LinkedIn should be like a copy of your CV, no matter, even if it is very brief. And then network with the right people, follow the right people. And if you've done something that you feel is quite significant, please be able to talk about it. And then I'll use Aisha's profile. So you see, Aisha, you have a very good LinkedIn profile, but you can add, you've created a link to your project, and then you've posted something, you've been posting. So it's very easy for recruiters to actually come across your CV. You see, you have the skills, but it would also be good to at least here on the full stack, or like on the role, to at least indicate some of the things that you're doing, not just the skill set. Okay. Yeah, and then these licenses and certifications, they go a long way, a really long way in helping you succeed.
Yeah, as you're also trying to create some other questions. On our end as a Space Tech, you also have a platform that is almost, you're launching it, that is called Mentalist. Is a platform that is we encourage one-on-one mentorship part of it, whereby when you can sign in, book a mentorship session. Maybe one of your mentor could be Joseph here, so you can sign in on our wait list. That is I've shared the link that is on the chat. That is mentalist.com.
Okay. So Martin, I think I'll take this offline. You can just drop me a line on my email, jgishuhi@microsoft.com, and then we can be able to take it up from there. And then Jacqueline asked a very interesting question. The first thing someone does when hired, so it's a first job, learn. Learn as much as you can, and don't be afraid to ask questions. I came from a background of communication, joined a recruiting agency, I found it interesting and I was like, I'll need to learn as much as I can because it's something totally new from what had learned in school. And I was very inquisitive, very curious. By the time I was leaving Hallmark Recruitment 5 years, there was no one in that organization who knew the applicant tracking system that we were using much better. I was the one like onboarding guys. Anyone who came in, like it would be like, Joseph, your part. Like learn as much as you can and be curious. And then if you can have someone who you feel can be your mentor in that particular organization, approach them and ask them to guide you to learn and grow in the organization.
And to the audience, Joseph is very open. You can also find time, pop into his inbox either on Twitter or LinkedIn. He's also a very open person.
Awesome. Need help in imposter syndrome? How can I handle that? Seek for someone like to who can guide you. Look for a mentor, Ayub, and then start talking about your projects pole pole. Like, don't wait up until you have a very big project that you can talk about it. Start talking about the things that you're doing, like on a regular basis, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Like, talk about it. Let people know about you. Like, that is the only way you will be able to overcome some of this. It is the same thing as having stage fright. You're not afraid, you're afraid of talking about people. And imposter syndrome can hinder you from growing into your career. So the best way is to try and tackle it. You can't tackle it in one day, but you can tackle it bit by bit by starting small, looking at what you can share pole pole, slowly, slowly, slowly. And within time, you will not, like, you'll literally realize that you've been able to overcome it. Don't try to overcome it in a day or two. Let it be a process. What role do certifications play? I think I had answered this. They play a very big part in that they show you're constantly learning, you're constantly growing, you're constantly looking to improve. If you're at the early stages of your career, it will put you apart from people who don't have anything else on your CV. So the certifications exhibit a growth mindset, and they're very, as long as they are relevant to the role that you're applying for. Hi, Cornelius. Sure. You can drop me my email or you can just send it on LinkedIn. So recruiters use GitHub. Most of us as recruiters, we may not be able to read through the repositories, but hiring managers will do. When I share the CV to the hiring manager for review, I've had most of them come back to me like, I loved what I saw this guy doing on GitHub. I need to like now see him in. So if you can, always have that link to your GitHub and your LinkedIn on your CV. I might not be able to read through your repositories. I may not be able to understand what you're doing, but a hiring manager will be able to, and that gives you an edge as compared to you not having that on the profile. The role of diversity and inclusivity at Microsoft, it is ensuring we have a culture that is diverse, a culture that is inclusive, a culture where people can come from different areas, different nationalities, different backgrounds, and learn and grow. And if you are diverse and inclusive, that is the only way that you will even have diverse and inclusive products. Because you see, you have different views from different people, and that is the only way, like, at least you can even be able to build solution and products that will be diverse and inclusive. Any roles at Microsoft that allow you to have a lot of travel? senior roles, senior roles, management roles, and also yes, there's opportunity for travel, but you see, with all the budget restrictions within most organizations, there's not been lots of travel for most people in the organizations, but a majority of people here have traveled. And you see, Microsoft is still a young site. And then we started out in 2019, COVID hit 2020, so travel was limited. But over the next few years, maybe things will change.
Yeah, Joseph. Maybe other than you, can you share almost a success stories in the tech industry, in the tech professional, for someone who was able to in the career path or in career who was able to develop the career path of it and in a specific different role or stack that he has been doing.
Wow. Do I have someone in mind? But most of the people who went to Andela through the fellowship, if you look at their profiles, most had come from different backgrounds. I may not have someone specific I can point out right now, but like most people who joined Andela through the fellowship were people who had just even done agriculture, entrepreneurship, and they were able to grow and thrive in the organization, in the tech field. After Microsoft, what other organizations can you join? It's a challenge sometimes when you've worked in a multinational, but people leave Microsoft and join startups. It all depends on the motivation from your end and also from you as an individual. It gets to a point, you've been here 5, 6, 10, 18 years, you feel like I need a move. So it's not a downgrade as long as you're as an individual, you know. And then Jacqueline, red flags of a company during interview. First, a company that calls you at night to tell you they have an interview tomorrow, that is not a company you would want to work with, because it shows they don't value your time. They don't they're not well structured in the way they do things. A company which is not willing to be flexible when they are interviewing you and they're saying, if you don't interview on this date, that's it, we will not interview you again. So some of things. And then you can even ask a role, and you've seen maybe a role that has been open. After 3 months, it is open. After 3 months, it is open. It's always good to understand from the interview, like, why are you constantly hiring for this role? If they don't give you a credible question as to why people are leaving, it's also a red flag. Gap still considered a red flag in a resume. As I mentioned earlier on, it all depends on the gap that you took. And if an organization values you and they've interviewed you, a gap on your resume, which is something that makes sense, will not be a red flag to them. Have I ever hired an undergraduate? I hired someone, but they had just done their master's. But unfortunately, the university recruiting team does not sit here. It sits in the UK, but we are hoping that can be transferred to ADC now here in Nairobi and in Nigeria in the near future. Are you engaging potential employers, recruiters on LinkedIn, best practices, initiating conversation, expressing interest? Be straightforward. Don't just say a hi and go, because you'll find that hi the next time you're coming to say hi again. It's the same thing we always say, unajipata kwa DM na hi ya last year but one. Say what you want. Say it with your chest. Like, be straightforward, be very structured, and then like literally break down like whatever you want to achieve. Don't just say hi, like, hey, my name is Ayub, I'm an Android engineer with 3 to 4, 5 years of experience. I'm interested in your organization. I've seen that you guys are not hiring, but you might be hiring in the near future. Am I a profile that you would be willing to consider? Very straightforward, very simple, and very engaging.
Yeah, Joseph, before you go to that,
Yeah, and I think I have 2 minutes. I need to drop for another call I have. I don't know, maybe we can take this up some other time.
so it's okay. maybe just you can do a parting shot before you drop out.
Yeah, culture fit means, Jacqueline, you exhibit technical excellence, but you also exhibit that aspect of someone who's a good collaborator, who's a good communicator, someone who takes feedback, someone who's willing to grow, someone who engages people. So you can be good technically, but when you're given feedback, you push back. Like you don't want to own up to mistakes. You don't want to demonstrate that learning mindset. You don't want to demonstrate that growth mindset. That is what we call by a culture fit. You can be good technically, but you also need to exhibit that you're someone who can work with different people from different backgrounds. And then as a parting shot in the role you are currently in at Microsoft, you go back 10 years ago, what advice will you give my younger you? Go for it and don't be afraid. Like literally, if you don't go for it, someone else is going for it. So that is the same case. Like that? Is it a proverb of if you don't tell a girl is beautiful, you'll be fetching water at her wedding? The same thing with even the job market. Go for it, be strategic, and always keep the right company. And if you can, look for a mentor who can guide you to grow into the role and the career that you're looking to grow into. Thank you so much, guys. Much appreciated for you guys having me. And in case there is any question that I might not have answered, you can always drop me a chat on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph, for taking your time for this late session with us.
Bye.
It's okay. And also the audience, thank you for having your time to attend this late session with us. So if you've got any comment, you can also say just before we drop it out.